In the void of space, where stars shimmer like distant memories and planets spin in their ancient rhythms, an uneasy peace had endured for centuries. The galaxy, once divided by the borders of empires, now floated in the fragile balance of détente. The Galactic Coalition, a conglomerate of sentient species, had governed the stars through diplomacy, trade, and military might, but even the most seasoned observers felt that peace was only a thin veil covering something much darker. The Reapers, an ancient and enigmatic species, had been silent for generations. They were the perfect predators, intelligent, adaptable, and impossibly advanced. Their warships, vast as they were silent, had been seen only in whispers, silent shadows in the corners of space. No one knew where they had gone or why they had withdrawn, but the Coalition's intelligence had consistently reported strange anomalies in distant sectors. Unexplained disappearances of fleets, strange gravitational shifts, and the sudden collapse of entire systems. But nothing prepared the universe for the coming storm. It began on a routine patrol in the Elysian Belt, a system once known for its thriving mining colonies and vibrant spaceports. Captain Anara Day, a decorated officer of the Coalition, was leading a squadron of warships through the belt when the sensors on her flagship, the Endurance, flared to life. A sharp pulse, unlike any signature known, rang through the communications grid. The crew was alert, but Captain Day knew the drill. They had encountered strange anomalies before, but they always turned out to be harmless. At least until today. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," said Lieutenant Duran, his voice steady but tinged with unease. "It's not from any known faction. It's unencrypted." "Put it on the main screen," Anara ordered. The screen flickered as a distorted image of a warship appeared. It was massive, far larger than any ship in the Coalition's fleet, and its surface was a strange metallic hue that reflected no light. The transmission was static-ridden, the words distorted, but the message was clear enough. "The reign of warships is upon you. Surrender or be eradicated." The message cut off abruptly, leaving the crew in stunned silence. A chill ran down Captain Day's spine, but she quickly regained her composure. "Prepare for combat," she ordered. "Alert all ships in the sector. This is not a drill." Within minutes, the Endurance and its squadron were joined by a dozen other Coalition warships, all geared for battle. But the sight that greeted them as they emerged from the asteroid belt left them all breathless. A fleet, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, hovered in the vast emptiness ahead. It was not a mere formation of ships but a massive armada. Hundreds of warships, each larger than any known vessel in the Coalition, gathered as if by some impossible force. They were perfectly synchronized, like a swarm of ancient creatures drawn to the same magnetic pull. "Do we engage, Captain?" Lieutenant Duran asked, his voice barely a whisper. Anara's fingers hovered over the comms, but before she could respond, a second transmission came through. This time, the voice was clearer, more commanding, and it carried an air of finality. "You are hopelessly outmatched. Prepare to witness the beginning of your end." Before the words even finished, the first salvo of the enemy fleet erupted from their ships. A barrage of energy blasts, unlike anything ever seen before, sped toward the Coalition ships. The Endurance's shields flared as they absorbed the impact, but it was clear, the enemy's firepower was beyond anything the Coalition had ever encountered. "Return fire. Full power to weapons." Captain Day shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. Her ship's weapons came to life, firing back with everything they had, but the enemy ships shrugged off the blast like they were nothing. For the first time in her career, Captain Anara Day felt the crushing weight of fear. The universe had been content in its ignorance of the Reapers, but it was clear now, the reign of warships had begun. And the galaxy, once so confident in its dominance, was on the brink of annihilation. The battle raged on, but the true horror was only just beginning. As the first Coalition ships began to fall, something even more terrifying emerged from the heart of the Reaper fleet. A massive warship, darker than the void itself, moving with a predatory grace. It was the size of a small moon, and as it powered up its weapons, the universe itself seemed to tremble. The Endurance was outmatched, outgunned, and outclassed. But Captain Day, ever the strategist, refused to give up. There was a secret to the Reapers, a hidden weakness, a flaw in their design. She had studied their history, their rise to power, and she knew that there was always a way to strike at the heart of any empire. But first she had to survive. As the Endurance's hull groaned under the onslaught, Captain Day made a grim decision. "All hands prepare for evasive maneuvers. We're not dying here today." The warships of the Reapers were closing in, but Anara had one final trick up her sleeve, a gamble that might just turn the tide. But time was running out, and the universe was about to be thrown into a war that would tear apart the fabric of everything known. The question was, would anyone survive to see the end? The Endurance swerved sharply, the inertial dampeners groaning under the strain as the Reaper fleet unleashed another devastating volley. A blast of green plasma erupted just to the side, the shockwave rattling the ship's hull. Anara Day held onto the armrest of her command chair, her eyes sharp and calculating. She had fought in countless battles, but this was unlike anything she had ever faced. "Shields at 30%, Captain," shouted Lieutenant Duran, his voice strained as he worked furiously at his console. "If we don't break free, we're going to be torn apart." Anara's mind raced. The Reaper's weapons were far too advanced for the Coalition to match head-to-head. They needed to outsmart them, find a weakness, anything that could turn the tide. But the sheer size and precision of the enemy's attacks left little room for hope. "Status on the other ships?" Anara asked, her voice calm despite the chaos. Her crew was trained for moments like this, but even they were starting to crack under the pressure. "All ships are engaged, Captain," replied Ensign Jalen, her voice shaky. "We've lost contact with the Pride of Valtor. The other ships are in disarray." "Send out a distress signal to command," Anara ordered, her voice now colder. "We need reinforcements. They need to know what we're facing." But even as she spoke, a terrible realization struck her. Even if reinforcements arrived, it might be too late. The Reapers weren't simply another invading force. They were a reckoning. A force of nature that had been lying in wait, watching, calculating, preparing for this very moment. Just then an explosion rattled the Endurance, and Anara's screen flickered to life, showing a new, horrifying sight. The massive moon-sized warship from earlier was now moving into position. Its surface rippled as though alive, and it emitted a low, resonating hum, a sound that reverberated in the bones of every living soul aboard the Coalition ships. "Captain, that ship." Darren's voice faltered. "It's like nothing we've ever encountered. What are they doing?" The warship's surface split open with terrifying precision, revealing an array of weapons unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen: dark energy cannons, antimatter projectors, and something far worse. Anara's instincts screamed that this weapon, whatever it was designed not just to destroy ships, but to obliterate entire worlds. "We need to move," Anara barked. "Get us out of the kill zone." The Endurance lurched forward, diving toward the nearby asteroid field, its engines firing at maximum output. But even as the ship darted through the field, evading the enemy's fire, Anara could see the enemy warship adjusting its aim. Then a voice crackled through the comms, cutting through the static. It was a voice, one she had heard in the darkest of legends. "You cannot escape. The universe is ours to command. The reign of warships begins now." Anara felt a chill run through her, but she didn't have time to dwell on the words. The enemy was closing in and they would not relent. "Activate the cloaking device," Anara ordered. "Let's see if we can get the jump on them." The crew worked quickly, and the Endurance shimmered as its cloaking systems engaged. The massive warship's weapons fired again, but now they were targeting nothing. Blasts of energy struck the asteroid field instead, sending chunks of rock flying in all directions. Anara gritted her teeth. They had a brief window, but it would be a narrow one. The enemy ships were scanning the area, searching for any sign of the Endurance. If they were detected, it was over. But this was their only chance to turn the tide, to find a weakness in the Reaper fleet and strike before it was too late. "Lieutenant, lock onto the enemy ship's power core," Anara said, her voice low but steady. "We can't destroy it, but we might be able to disable it. Aim for the secondary conduit. If we can overload it, we might be able to stop them long enough to escape." "Understood, Captain," Duran replied, his hands flying across the controls. The seconds felt like hours. The Endurance held its breath as it drifted silently in the shadow of a massive asteroid. The faint hum of the ship's cloaking device was the only sound, and for a moment, it seemed as though the entire galaxy was holding its breath. "Locked on," Duran said, his voice tense. "Ready on your mark." Anara's gaze was fixed on the massive Reaper warship. She had no choice now. If this didn't work, they were dead. "Fire," she commanded. The Endurance's weapons discharged with deadly precision. A beam of focused energy shot toward the Reaper warship, striking the targeted conduit with a blinding flash. For a brief moment, everything seemed to pause, the vast emptiness of space holding its breath. Then the enemy ship shook violently, its surface rippling like a wounded beast. The Endurance shuddered and Anara felt her heart race. The Reaper ship staggered, its weapon systems flickering. But the victory was short-lived. The Reapers were relentless. Before they could capitalize on the strike, the Reaper fleet converged, their ships locking onto the Endurance with a force that could not be outrun. Anara knew they were out of time. The war was far from over, and the galaxy's darkest secrets were still buried, waiting to be uncovered. But as the Reaper fleet closed in for the final blow, something unexpected happened. Another fleet arrived. It wasn't the Coalition. It was something older, something darker. And it wasn't here to help. The Endurance's shields flickered, and the distant hum of its engines seemed to grow more strained with every passing second. Anarade's fingers clenched into fists around the armrests of her chair as the Reaper fleet closed in on their position. The time for evasion was running out. Soon they would be within range, and there would be no escaping the death blow that was surely coming. But just as the final barrage from the Reapers was about to hit, something strange happened. The vast emptiness of space trembled, not from the power of the Reaper ships, but from a new force, one that came out of nowhere. A series of rapid pulses, a strange, powerful energy signature, appeared on the tactical display. It wasn't from any ship the Coalition had ever encountered. It was far beyond their technology, and even the Reapers seemed to take notice. For the briefest of moments, the swarm of enemy warships faltered as if stunned. "Captain," Lieutenant Duran said, his voice shaking. "We're picking up another fleet, fast, and it's not coming from any known Coalition forces." "It's impossible," Anara interrupted. She couldn't take her eyes off the display as a massive fleet of warships materialized out of nothing, dropping out of what appeared to be a rift in space itself. These ships were not like the Reapers. Their designs were ancient, angular, covered in strange symbols that pulsed with an eerie, dim light. The ships were vast, towering over the Coalition fleet, their energy signatures unlike anything Anara had ever seen. "Who are they?" Duran breathed. Anara's mind raced. She had heard stories, legends of a forgotten species, ancient and powerful, that existed before the galaxy even knew of war. The Archaics they were called. But they were only myths lost to time. Yet here they were, beyond anything the Coalition had in its arsenal, beyond even the Reapers. The new fleet moved into position between the Endurance and the Reaper armada, their weapons glowing menacingly. The Reapers, who had been so certain of their victory, now hesitated. The massive warship that had been closing in on the Endurance slowed, its systems flickering as it recalculated. "All ships hold fire," Anara ordered, her voice barely a whisper. She wasn't sure whether to be relieved or terrified by this turn of events. But one thing was certain, the Reapers weren't the only danger in this galaxy. The two fleets, the Reapers and the Archaics, now faced each other, the tension palpable even across the cold void of space. Anara could feel the weight of history pressing down on her as if the universe itself were holding its breath. "Captain, they're broadcasting a signal," said Jalen, the communications officer. He tapped a few controls, and the voice that filled the command deck was cold, deep, and ancient. "We are the Archaics. Your struggle is insignificant. The Reapers will fall, but only if you understand the true nature of this war. This is not just your battle, it is a test." "Test?" Anara echoed, her voice a mixture of confusion and fear. "What do they mean by that?" Darren's eyes widened in realization. "Captain, they're not here to help us. They're here to test us. The Reapers are only one piece of the puzzle." A deep rumble echoed through the Endurance as the Archaic ships fired a single burst of energy toward the Reaper fleet. The energy struck with surgical precision, shattering the leading vessels of the enemy armada into splinters. In an instant, the Reaper's seemingly indestructible warships were torn apart. But just as quickly as it had started, the destruction ceased. The Archaic fleet hovered in silence, their weapons powered down. "You must learn," the voice from the Archaics continued. "Your civilization has been content in its ignorance for too long. There are powers beyond the stars, beyond even your understanding. You have no idea what you are truly fighting for, nor the consequences of your actions. If you wish to survive, you will seek the truth. The Reapers are only the beginning." The transmission ended abruptly, and the Archaic fleet began to retreat, vanishing into the rift from which it had emerged, leaving nothing behind but the wreckage of the Reaper ships. Silence fell over the battlefield as the remaining Reaper warships regrouped, their battle-ready posture now uncertain. Anara stood frozen, trying to process what had just happened. The Reapers, though fierce and advanced, had been effortlessly torn apart. The Archaics had wielded unimaginable power, but their message, their cryptic warning, remained. The universe had just changed in ways she couldn't fathom. "Captain," Darren's voice broke through her thoughts. "The Reapers are retreating. They're not pursuing us anymore. They're pulling back." Anara didn't take her eyes off the view screen. The Reaper's fleet had indeed scattered, regrouping but no longer in attack formation. It was as if the Archaics had broken the Reaper's resolve. But what did it mean? How long do we have? Anara asked, her voice strained. Not long, Duran replied, eyes scanning the readouts. The Reapers will regroup, and when they do, they'll come back with even more force. And what about the Archaics? Anara asked, though she knew the answer. They had come, tested them, and left. Their motives were still unclear. But one thing was certain now: the battle was far from over. The Reapers were a threat, but they were only one piece of something far larger, something far darker. The universe had its secrets, and Anara had only scratched the surface. Set course for the closest coalition outpost, Anara said, her voice steady. We need to report back. But we also need to learn everything we can about the Archaics. There's far more at stake than we realize. As the Endurance turned toward the nearest outpost, Anara felt the weight of the galaxy pressing down on her. The war with the Reapers was just the beginning, and the universe's darkest secrets were waiting to be uncovered. And she was about to find herself in the middle of a conflict that would reshape everything. The Endurance surged forward, its engines humming a steady rhythm as it charted a course toward the nearest coalition outpost. Anara Day stood in the command center, her eyes fixed on the starfield ahead, her mind still reeling from the events that had unfolded in the past hours. The arrival of the Archaics had upended everything they knew about the Reapers, and about the universe itself. There had been no explanation, only a brief, cryptic warning, and the annihilation of Reaper warships as though they were little more than dust. Anara had felt the sudden weight of a far greater power watching them, not as allies but as overseers. Captain, Duran said, interrupting her thoughts. His voice was tight, the unease still hanging in his tone. We've just received a message from Fleet Command. They're requesting a full report, but, Captain, there's something strange about the transmission. It's encrypted, using a code we've never encountered before. Anara's heart skipped a beat. She turned to face Duran, her brow furrowing. Encrypted? What do you mean by strange? It's not just a standard encryption, Duran explained, his hands flying across his console. It's using a pattern we've never seen in Coalition protocols. It's archaic, almost as if it's been designed to evade modern systems. I've never seen anything like it. The signal's coming from the heart of Coalition space. Anara's instincts flared. The timing was too precise, too coincidental. Fleet Command had been ready for a report, but not one encrypted in such an unusual manner. There was something else happening, something far larger than the war with the Reapers or even the appearance of the Archaics. We can't afford to wait, Anara said, her voice sharp. Open a secure channel. We need to send everything we know about the Archaics, the Reapers, and that strange fleet. And tell them to decrypt their message before we respond. Duran hesitated, glancing at her. Captain, the message, it feels like a trap. It could be another way for them to keep us in the dark. But I'll open the channel now. As Duran worked, Anara turned back to the view screen. The Endurance was still navigating its way through the star system, and though the immediate danger had passed, there was an unmistakable sense that something far worse was lurking in the shadows. The Reapers weren't just a species of warriors, they were a catalyst, part of a much darker puzzle that had yet to be revealed. The comms officer, Jalen, spoke up again. Captain, the encrypted message from Fleet Command is decoded. We're receiving it now. Anara nodded, bracing herself. She had a sinking feeling that whatever came next would change everything. The screen flickered, and a figure appeared, an officer in the familiar uniform of the Coalition. But this officer's face was not one Anara recognized. The man was older, his features sharp and angular, and his eyes betrayed a level of authority that seemed out of place. Captain Day, the officer said, his voice cold and unyielding. I am Admiral Valen Rourke. You've encountered the Archaics, haven't you? Anara stiffened. Yes, we were. I don't care about your encounter, Rourke cut her off. You need to understand something. The Archaics are not to be trifled with. You've seen what they can do. Their presence in this conflict is not an accident. They are playing a long game and you are caught in the middle of it. You must be careful what you say, what you think you understand. Careful. Anara repeated. What is that supposed to mean? The Reapers came out of nowhere and we were just attacked by a fleet that could wipe us out without a second thought. If we don't act, we'll be crushed, and yet you're telling me to be careful? Rourke's expression did not change. You don't see the larger picture. The Reapers are only the tip of the iceberg. What you've encountered is the edge of something far older, far more dangerous than even the Archaics. They were here before us. Before the Reapers. They were the first to rise to power, and they left behind something that no one, was supposed to find. But you've stumbled onto it. The Reapers are not attacking us randomly. They're searching for something. Anara's stomach twisted. Searching for what? Rourke paused, then lowered his voice, his eyes shifting as if to ensure no one else was listening. A weapon. The weapon the Archaics fear. And the Coalition has no idea it even exists. A chill ran through Anara. A weapon. What kind of weapon? Rourke leaned forward, his expression darkening. I can't say more over an open channel. But I'll say this, the Reapers aren't the only threat out there. And the Archaics? They've come for the same thing. But they don't want to destroy it, they want to control it. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving a heavy silence hanging in the command room. Anara's mind was racing. The Reapers were searching for a weapon. One that could change the entire balance of power in the galaxy. The Archaics were here because of it too, and they were playing a game with the Coalition, perhaps trying to control the very weapon that had sparked this cosmic conflict. The weapon. Anara whispered to herself. What in the universe could it be? Duran looked to her, concern flickering in his eyes. Captain, what now? Anara straightened, a new resolve settling over her. We head to Coalition space just like we planned. We need to gather as much intelligence as we can on this weapon, and what the Archaics know about it. If the Reapers are after it, we need to be the ones to find it first. The Endurance continued on its course, but the path ahead was no longer just about surviving the Reapers. It was about uncovering a secret so powerful, so dangerous, that it could unravel the very fabric of the universe itself. And whatever it was, Anara knew one thing for certain. The stakes had just become unimaginably high. The Endurance glided through the blackness of space, its destination clear. Coalition command. The ship's crew moved with quiet purpose, aware that the urgency of their mission had escalated with every passing moment. Anara Day sat at the helm, staring into the starfield ahead, her mind wrestling with the fragments of information they had gathered. The Archaics. The Reapers. A weapon of unimaginable power, hidden deep within the galaxy's oldest secrets. Anara's gaze flickered to the tactical display, where the outlines of distant systems blinked like tiny, unreachable beacons. The journey to Coalition Command would take time, but that was time they didn't have. The enemy, whoever they truly were, had made it clear. They were all in the race for something buried, and Anara had no idea how far it would go to stop them. We've received confirmation from Command, Lieutenant Duran said, breaking the silence. He stood beside Anara, holding a tablet with the latest transmissions. They've authorized full cooperation with our findings, but there's still one thing they're not revealing. They're pushing for us to get more intel on the Archaics, and the weapon. Anara's brows knitted. Of course they are, she murmured. They have no idea what they're dealing with. The Reapers are terrifying, yes. But the Archaics, there's something else entirely. They've been quiet for millennia, Duran agreed, his expression somber. Maybe they were watching for the Reapers, or maybe they were waiting for something to stir in the shadows of the galaxy. But now they've revealed themselves, and from what Rourke said. I know, Anara interrupted, her voice cutting through the air like a blade. The weapon. The Reapers want it. The Archaics want it. And I still don't know what it is. She shook her head, feeling the weight of the unknown pressing down on her. But we're going to find out. Anara stood and walked toward the observation deck, staring out at the shimmering stars. She had always known that space was a place of chaos and danger, but nothing had prepared her for this. The galaxy wasn't just a battleground for civilizations and species. It was a place where ancient powers lurked in the dark, where forgotten forces stirred beneath the surface. Captain, Jalen called from his station. We've just detected something strange. A fleet. It's large. It's coming straight for us. Anara's stomach sank. Are they Reapers? Negative, Jalen replied. The signatures don't match. It's not the Reapers, and it's not any Coalition fleet either. We're picking up an anomalous energy reading. It's unlike anything we've encountered before. Could it be the Archaics? Duran asked, his voice low. It might be, Anara said, her voice hard. But it could also be something else. Something none of us are ready for. Captain, we're being hailed, Jalen said, his fingers flying over the console. The image of a woman appeared on the view screen. She was human, but her uniform was strange, marked with unfamiliar insignia. Her face was composed, almost impassive, though her eyes held a certain coldness. I am Commander Syra Valen, the woman said, her voice calm and commanding. You have information regarding the weapon and I need it. Now. Anara took a deep breath. This was no Coalition officer. Her gut twisted with the realization that they were dealing with yet another unknown faction. "Who are you?" Anara asked, keeping her tone even, her hand resting on the edge of the control panel. "And why are you after this weapon?" Syra's eyes flickered for a moment, her expression unreadable. "The weapon is not meant to fall into the hands of the Reapers or the Archaics. You have no idea what you're dealing with, Captain." "We do. And you will either share what you know or we will take it from you." "Who are you?" Anara pressed again, her voice firm. "And why should I trust you?" Syra leaned forward, her gaze narrowing. "We are the Aegis Consortium and we've been watching the Reapers and the Archaics for centuries. You're not the first to stumble upon the weapon, Captain, but you might be the last. Give us the data on the Reapers and we can help you stop them. Otherwise your survival is unlikely." Anara felt a cold chill run through her, but she remained calm. "I don't know anything about this weapon other than that the Reapers are looking for it. We're just trying to survive long enough to warn the Coalition." "Then you're in over your head," Syra replied coolly. "The Reapers are a symptom of a far worse disease. You may think they're your enemy but they are not. The true enemy is something older, something you can't comprehend." Syra's eyes locked onto Anara's and there was a brief flash of something, a memory, in her gaze. "If you survive this you'll wish you hadn't." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving a silence that swallowed the room. "Captain," Duran said, his voice shaky, "who are the Aegis Consortium?" "I've never heard of them." Anara turned slowly, her mind racing. "I don't know. But I think we just met the latest players in this galactic chess match. Should we engage them?" Duran asked, his tone filled with uncertainty. Anara's eyes burned with resolve. "We can't afford to fight everyone. But we can't trust them either. Prepare to change course. We're not going to Coalition Command yet. We're heading to the last known location of the Reapers. We need to find out more about this weapon before the Aegis, or anyone, gets their hands on it." Jalen looked at her in confusion. "Captain, if the Reapers are already looking for it they could have a head start. Why risk it?" Anara's voice was steady. "Because whoever controls that weapon will control everything. We don't stop the Reapers, the Archaics, and the Aegis from getting to it, then the universe won't just be in chaos. It'll be on the brink of destruction." The Endurance shifted course and with it the galaxy itself seemed to shift. The race for the weapon, the key to untold power, was on. And every step brought them closer to an ancient truth buried in the darkest reaches of space. The stars outside the Endurance's viewport blurred into streaks of light as the ship accelerated through the void, changing course to intercept the Reaper's last known position. Anara Day sat rigidly at the helm, her mind a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. The Aegis Consortium's cryptic warning still echoed in her ears. The true enemy is something older, something you can't comprehend. It gnawed at her, feeding the growing uncertainty about what they were truly dealing with. "Captain," Darren's voice interrupted her thoughts. "We're approaching the coordinates of the Reaper fleet." But what?" Anara demanded, her patience thinning. Darren's eyes flicked to the tactical display. "There's no sign of the fleet. It's gone. Completely gone. The coordinates are clear but there's no debris, no energy signatures. It's as if they never existed." Anara stood up from the captain's chair and moved toward the tactical console, a chill creeping down her spine. "That doesn't make sense," she murmured. "We know they were here. The Reapers don't just disappear." "No," Duran agreed, his expression grim. "But something made them vanish." The Endurance slowed to a stop in the silence of the dead space, the crew's tension palpable. Anara scanned the surrounding systems, looking for any clue, any hint, that would tell her what had happened to the Reapers. Had they fallen back to regroup or was something else at play? "Captain," Jalen spoke up. "I'm picking up a faint energy signature nearby. It's coming from an uncharted system, a black hole in fact. It's unusual. I've never seen energy readings like this near a singularity before." Anara's mind raced. "A black hole?" She turned to Duran. "Can you plot a course?" "We'll need to make some adjustments to the ship's systems," Duran replied, clearly concerned. "We can't get too close to it without risking the gravitational pull destabilizing our trajectory. But we can get within scanning range." "Do it," Anara ordered. "If the Reapers left in such a hurry, there's only one place they could have gone. Somewhere they think they're safe. A black hole could hide anything including the weapon." The Endurance adjusted its course, moving cautiously toward the uncharted system, the black hole looming in the distance. Anara's mind churned with possibilities. Could the weapon be hidden there? Or was it possible the Reapers had discovered it, and now were guarding it within the event horizon of the singularity? Minutes stretched into hours as the ship navigated closer, the black hole growing ever larger on the viewport. The stars around it bent in strange, warped patterns as they neared the event horizon, and the gravitational pull began to distort the Endurance's sensors. "Captain," Jalen said, his voice tight with apprehension, "the energy signature is coming from within the black hole. It's almost like something is using the singularity itself as a shield." "Shields don't work in a black hole's gravity," Duran said, his tone skeptical. Unless it's not a shield," Anara finished. "It's the weapon. Whatever the Reapers are searching for, it's hidden within the core of that black hole. And they're not the only ones after it." The Endurance hovered just outside the black hole's event horizon, its systems now running at maximum capacity to prevent them from being pulled into the destructive forces of the singularity. Anara's mind raced as she tried to make sense of everything: the Archaics, the Aegis Consortium, the Reapers, and now the weapon, the key to it all. "We can't get too close," Duran warned, his eyes glued to the display. "We risk getting sucked in." "Keep scanning," Anara said, her voice sharp. "We need to find a way to extract it. There has to be some other means of reaching the weapon. There's no way it's just sitting there waiting for the Reapers to pick it up." Suddenly, the lights in the command center flickered, and a low rumble shook the ship. The display flashed as a sudden surge of energy shot through the system, triggering alarms on every console. "Captain," Jalen shouted. "We've got incoming. A fleet huge. It's the Reapers. They're emerging from the black hole." Anara's heart pounded in her chest. "Not again," she muttered under her breath. The Reapers had found their way in, and they were about to unleash hell. The massive Reaper fleet emerged from the swirling maelstrom of the black hole, their warships appearing like phantoms, their hulking forms silhouetted against the abyss. There were dozens of them, more than Anara had ever seen before, their sleek, angular ships cutting through the void with terrifying speed. "Brace for impact," Anara shouted, grabbing the controls as the Endurance jerked violently. The Reaper fleet had come through the black hole, their weapons charging, their intent clear. They would stop at nothing to secure the weapon, and the galaxy itself. The Endurance weaved in and out of the incoming fire, dodging pulse lasers and energy blasts. The crew fought to keep their cool as the ship was rocked by shock waves, the sound of explosions reverberating through the hull. "Captain, we can't hold out much longer," Duran shouted, his voice strained. "They've got us surrounded." Anara's mind raced. They couldn't fight their way out of this, not with the Reapers' overwhelming numbers. She needed a plan, and fast. "Jalen, can you get a lock on that energy signature?" she asked, her voice low but firm. Jalen hesitated. "It's almost impossible to get a precise fix, Captain. The gravitational forces are distorting everything. But I think I can pinpoint the location of the weapon. It's not in the black hole itself. There's a station. A structure hidden just outside the event horizon. That's where the Reapers are heading," Anara said, a surge of determination flooding her. "We need to get there first. Full speed ahead. Get us to that station now." With the Endurance now locked in a race against the Reapers, Anara and her crew pushed their ship to its limits, navigating through the chaos of exploding debris and concentrated fire. The Reapers would stop at nothing to get what they wanted, but Anara would make sure they didn't succeed. The weapon was within reach. And no one, not the Reapers, not the Archaics, and not the mysterious Aegis Consortium, was going to claim it without a fight. The Endurance raced toward the structure just outside the event horizon of the black hole, weaving between bursts of energy fire from the Reaper fleet. Each jolt shook the ship, and the crew struggled to keep their footing as they fought to maintain control. The flashing lights of explosions painted the command deck in streaks of red, but Anara's focus never wavered. The station ahead was their only hope. "Captain, we've got incoming fire," Jalen called out, his voice tense. "They're locking onto us with heavy weapons." "We can't outrun them," Duran said, his hands flying over his console. "We need to find a way in, something to get us close enough to dock." Anara's eyes flickered over the display. The station was massive, its structure dark and angular, unlike anything in Coalition design. It seemed to pulse with an eerie, unnatural energy, a low hum emanating from it that reverberated through the ship. It didn't look like a military installation, more like something ancient, forgotten, and intentionally hidden in the darkest corner of the galaxy. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Anara ordered, gripping the arms of her chair as another violent explosion rocked the ship. "Jalen, can you get us to a docking port? Any way inside?" Jalen's fingers flew over his console. "There's a hangar bay, but it's not exactly inviting. The station's defenses are active, Captain. It'll be a tight squeeze, but I think we can make it. Do it, Anara snapped. Duran, take us in. We need to get aboard that station, now. Duran nodded grimly. The Endurance veered sharply, narrowly dodging another wave of fire from the Reapers as they continued their relentless assault. The station loomed closer, its shape becoming clearer against the backdrop of the black hole's twisting gravity. Hold tight. Duran shouted as he pushed the ship to its limits, guiding the Endurance toward the station's hangar bay. The Reapers weren't about to let them slip by without a fight. They would be on them in seconds. Incoming. Jalen shouted again, his voice rising in alarm. We've got another fleet coming in just on the other side of the black hole. It's the Aegis Consortium. Anara's mind spun. The Aegis? Here. She had no time to process the implications. The Endurance's hull creaked and groaned as they neared the station, barely avoiding the incoming fire from both the Reapers and the Aegis ships. Docking sequence initiated, Jalen reported, his voice tight. We're almost there. With a final jolt, the Endurance lurched, and the docking clamps locked into place with a resounding thud. The alarms in the ship's corridors screamed as the crew scrambled to prepare for the next phase, boarding the station. Everyone to the airlock. Anara barked. This is our only shot. We need to get inside, find the weapon, and make sure neither the Reapers nor the Aegis get their hands on it. The crew moved quickly, gathering weapons and gear as they made their way to the airlock. Anara's mind was racing, her thoughts locked on one thing, the weapon. She didn't know what it was, but she knew one thing for certain: it had the power to shift the balance of the entire galaxy. If the Reapers or the Aegis got to it first, there would be no stopping them. The stakes couldn't be higher. The airlock hissed as the massive doors opened, revealing the dark, shadowy interior of the station. It was quiet, eerily quiet, except for the low hum that seemed to come from the very walls of the station itself. The interior was ancient, far older than anything the Coalition had ever encountered, and as the crew stepped inside, the weight of that history pressed down on them. Stay alert, Anara ordered, her voice low. We don't know what's waiting for us here. The station's corridors were narrow and winding, its walls lined with strange symbols and glyphs that flickered dimly in the low light. The air was thick, almost oppressive, as if the very atmosphere itself was holding its breath. There was no sign of life, no signs of anyone having used the station in millennia. But the deeper they went, the more intense the hum became, vibrating through the very bones of the Endurance. Captain, I'm getting readings on the weapon's energy signature, Jalen reported, his voice echoing in the stillness. It's coming from the central core of the station. There's a massive energy buildup, more than anything we've ever seen. Anara's pulse quickened. Lead the way, Jalen. They moved quickly, following the energy readings through the dark station, until they arrived at a large, central chamber. The walls here were lined with strange, ancient technology, runes glowing faintly as though alive with some forgotten power. In the center of the chamber stood a massive, spherical object, surrounded by a web of energy conduits and machinery. The weapon. It was more imposing than Anara had imagined, its surface covered in intricate designs that seemed to shift as they looked at them. The object pulsed with energy, sending waves of power through the room. This is it, Anara said, her voice barely a whisper. The weapon. Before they could approach it, the entire room shook, the hum of the station intensifying. From the shadows, figures began to emerge, figures cloaked in dark armor, their faces obscured. They were humanoid, but their movements were unnatural, almost inhuman. The Reapers. They had found them. Anara drew her sidearm and raised it. Get ready, she hissed. But as the figures stepped closer, a different voice echoed from the far side of the room. Step away from the weapon, Captain Day. It's not yours to take. The Aegis Consortium. They had arrived just in time to stake their claim. Anara's heart sank. The room was now filled with enemies. Reapers on one side, Aegis on the other, and in the center, the weapon that could change everything. And she was caught in the middle. We're not leaving without it, Anara said, her voice steely. The battle for the weapon was about to begin, and the fate of the galaxy would be decided in this forgotten, ancient place. The tension in the dark chamber was palpable. The low hum of the station's energy systems reverberated through the air, the ancient machinery now an eerie soundtrack to the confrontation that was about to unfold. Anara Day's fingers gripped her weapon tighter as she surveyed the scene. On one side of the room, the Reapers slowly advanced, their armored forms cloaked in menace. On the other, the Aegis Consortium, their mysterious leader, Syra Valen, stood at the forefront, her cold eyes fixed on Anara. And in the center, surrounded by pulsing energy conduits, stood the weapon. Its surface shimmered with an unearthly glow, sending waves of energy through the room that seemed to resonate with the very fabric of space itself. "We're not leaving without it," Anara repeated, her voice steady, betraying no hint of fear. The Reapers said nothing. They didn't need to. Their presence alone conveyed their intent. They would kill anyone who tried to stop them from taking the weapon. The Aegis, however, had a different plan. "We have no time for this, Captain Day," Syra Valen's voice cut through the tension. "The weapon is beyond your comprehension. Hand over the data you've gathered, and we will leave without further conflict. This doesn't have to end in bloodshed." Anara's lips curled into a thin smile. "The galaxy doesn't need a group like the Aegis controlling this kind of power." Syra's eyes narrowed. "You misunderstand. We seek to prevent the Reapers from using this weapon. Their vision of the galaxy is one of total annihilation, of rebirth through destruction. The Aegis will ensure it remains out of their hands and in our own." Anara's mind raced. Syra and the Aegis were no better than the Reapers. They wanted to control the weapon, not protect it. The galaxy didn't need another authoritarian regime, even one that pretended to have noble intentions. "We're all just players in a game bigger than us," Duran muttered, his voice grim. "But none of us can afford to let the Reapers win." Before Anara could respond, the Reapers surged forward, their movements swift and deadly. Their energy weapons crackled to life, bright blue beams of raw power lighting up the chamber. The Aegis reacted just as quickly, their weapons humming as they raised them, creating a sharp contrast of light and darkness. In that instant, the room exploded into chaos. Gunfire erupted as the two factions clashed, filling the air with deafening blasts. Anara dove behind one of the station's energy conduits, narrowly avoiding a lethal beam from a Reaper's weapon. "Focus on the weapon," she shouted to her crew, her voice cutting through the noise. "We need to stop both sides from reaching it." Duran and Jalen moved with precision, covering each other as they advanced toward the weapon, pushing through the battlefield. The Reapers and the Aegis had become locked in a brutal firefight, their advanced technology lighting the chamber in a deadly symphony of destruction. Anara took a deep breath, focusing all her energy on the task at hand. The weapon in the center of the room was more than just a tool, it was a threat. If either faction gained control of it, the entire galaxy would be at their mercy. Anara emerged from cover and sprinted toward the weapon, her heart pounding in her chest. She barely dodged an energy bolt that seared through the air beside her, its heat scorching the metal walls. Behind her, the battle raged on, the Reapers and Aegis engaged in a brutal struggle for dominance. Just as she reached the weapon, something strange happened. The pulsating energy of the weapon seemed to respond to her presence, intensifying as if it were alive. A wave of raw power washed over her, causing the room to vibrate, and a series of voices, whispered in her mind. "You are not ready for this." Anara staggered, the voice inside her head pressing against her thoughts, as though it were trying to invade her very soul. She gritted her teeth and pushed forward, ignoring the voices, the sensation of being overwhelmed. Her crew needed her. The galaxy needed her. She reached the weapon, placing her hands on the glowing surface. The room trembled as the energy surged again, but this time, Anara felt a connection, a pull that seemed to fuse her with the ancient technology. "Captain?" Jalen called, rushing to her side. "What's happening?" "I don't know," Anara said, her voice shaky. "But this isn't just a weapon. It's a key." Before Jalen could respond, the entire station suddenly shook violently. The gravitational field of the black hole outside intensified, pulling harder on the station. A loud, ominous hum began to rise from the depths of the structure, the walls around them glowing with a dangerous energy. "We need to get out of here," Duran shouted, his voice filled with panic. "This place is going to collapse." "No," Anara shouted back. "We can't leave without securing the weapon. It's too dangerous." Suddenly, the Reapers and the Aegis both turned their attention toward Anara. The battle momentarily paused, and all eyes focused on the weapon she had activated. The room was filled with tension, the air thick with anticipation. Syra Valen, standing on the far side of the room, locked eyes with Anara. "You don't understand, Captain," she said, her voice low and dangerous. "That weapon can't be controlled by anyone. It's not meant for mortals. The power it contains." Before Syra could finish, the ground beneath their feet trembled again, and a massive shockwave sent everyone sprawling to the floor. The station was starting to collapse under the gravitational forces. Anara looked back at the weapon, still pulsing with energy, then at her crew and finally at the Reapers and Aegis, both closing in, ready to claim it for themselves. In that moment, Anara made a decision. The weapon couldn't be allowed to fall into anyone's hands. Not the Reapers, not the Aegis, and certainly not anyone else with designs for the galaxy. We destroy it, Anara said, her voice resolute. We destroy the weapon and let the galaxy take its chances without it. Her crew didn't hesitate. They planted charges around the weapon, setting them to overload in minutes. The countdown began. We're getting out of here, Anara shouted. With the Reapers and the Aegis closing in, Anara and her team made their way back to the Endurance. The station trembled violently as the countdown reached its final seconds. As the Endurance launched away from the collapsing station, Anara looked back one final time. The weapon, the center of everything they had fought for, was now lost, destroyed along with the station that had hidden it for eons. The explosion lit up the galaxy like a supernova, sending shockwaves through the black hole, distorting time and space. Anara closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of their decision. They had saved the galaxy, at least for now, but at great cost. The weapon is gone, Anara said quietly, her voice filled with a mixture of relief and sorrow. But the galaxy will survive. As the Endurance sped away, disappearing into the vast reaches of space, the fate of the universe still hung in the balance. There were no guarantees, no promises that peace would last. But for the first time in a long while, Anara felt hope stir in her heart. They had won the fight, but the war was far from over,